so I'm the CEO and founder of voxgov. Voxgov was born out of a consulting company that I ran during the 90s, which really focused on advising Australian technology companies that wanted to bring their business to the US, and most of them had government-oriented solutions. Initial thoughts were that it would be very easy, look up the government bids and do business for them, and very quickly found out that by the time bids arrived, the process was largely over. And we had to then resort to a different approach, which was to start going through government websites, looking for signs of opportunity for these clients. And it was done manually. It took many hundreds, if not thousands of hours to find snippets of information, going to information such as press releases and reports and different kinds of documents, and realizing the overwhelming task. The US federal government, probably the largest daily publisher of materials, not in the publishing business, and it's very, very evident when you see how widely dispersed the data is. It's siloed within government departments. They don't share within, let alone across government departments. They publish in various forms, and the data is very, very difficult to access. It occurred to us as time went on that if there was a way to harness the government information, there were certain benefits to be derived. In particular, rather than in the bid situation of looking at the end of the process, you would get early indicators, and in many instances, very, very positive indicators of what was about to happen. And as we understood the challenge of the process, we looked at it in the context of the congressional, the legislative, and the regulatory process. They're very much, end steps in themselves. Very late in the process of government, what were the early indicators that could be gleaned from information prior to bills, laws, and regulations coming into being? Task is involved manually going out to map government websites. There is no index of US federal government websites available. At 8,500 government sources, we don't claim to have every one by any means. We do claim to have the most. The other thing about the widely dispersed and ephemeral types of data that we have is that in many instances, once that government source is removed from the website, it is no longer available elsewhere. So, for instance, a member of Congress leaves office, usually that day their website is shut down, and that material is never recovered. So we actually have over 23 million documents. They are all cached and preserved, documents mainly going back to 1990 in high volume, all from .gov domains, with the exception of official US federal social media sources. We have tracked not only a large number of sources, but a large number of document types, over 50 document types. The largest part of that is by far coming from what we call releases, which could be anything from press releases to op-eds, to newsletters, to columns, reports, speeches, transcripts, 30 different types of documents before we get to the official regulations and legislative style documents. The former account for just on 90% of our documents, so the legislative and the regulatory are a very small portion, relatively speaking. What can you do with the data we've got? We have provided a multitude of ways of rapidly drilling down through that data, through filters, and to give you just single instance and an extreme example. If you looked for Dodd-Frank in our system, you would find over 23,000 documents, and more than 70% of those come from the non-regulatory, non-congressional, and non-legislative. These are the documents of people speaking where their comments have preceded the legislative process. They have preceded the regulatory process. And there is, we believe, very rich insight that this provides for law firms, for existing clients, and would-be clients for them to share.